Welcome once again to Auto Mundial, the weekly home of all the latest motoring news and reviews. This week, the bonkers 1,000 horsepower Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 gets an even bigger boost.
We've also got a Ford pickup truck for late night street races that also doubles up as your daily workhorse.
Plus, French luxury manufacturer DS makes a move on the German executive saloon establishment.
That's all coming up. First though, the news.
In a shocking case of altered alliances, the man famous for guiding Ferrari out of its dark days in the 1980s and back to profitability come the 2010s has reportedly joined McLaren as its new director. Yes, Luca di Montezemolo, once famed for overseeing the development of prancing horse icons like the Enzo, the 458 Italia and La Ferrari, who took to retirement in 2014, has now announced that he will be joining the McLaren Group Holdings Board of Directors. It should come as no surprise that Di Montezemolo, who has also referred to Abu Dhabi as his second homeland, joins the British-based supercar manufacturer just months after the company was purchased by CYVN Holdings, an investment fund owned by the Abu Dhabi government. Having led Ferrari to its golden era and been responsible for some of the greatest prancing horse machinery ever created, many McLaren enthusiasts will be excited to see what Di Montezemolo can do for the UK outfit. We will be sure to bring you all of McLaren's progress as time goes on.
Here in the UK, pickup trucks haven't quite taken off as they have done in the United States of America, where everyone and their dog seemingly patrols the streets, arm out of the window, with a bed full of stuff. As much as we don't love the open rear chassis design here on the old continent, there was one particular model that surely tickled everyone's fancy, the Ford Maverick Lobo. Meaning wolf in Spanish, the Lobo name refers to the proud visuals of hyper-modified and eye-catching street racing creations popular within Mexican car culture, bringing lower ride height, flashy design pieces, and a bit of motorsports flair to the diminutive pickup. But now the Maverick is no longer the only blue oval truck available in slam specification, as Ford has just revealed its best-selling pickup with added flair. Yes, the Ford F-150 Lobo is now available as a flashier version of the bog-standard blue-collar runabout. As you'd expect from a so-called street truck with greased lightning inspiration, the F-150 Lobo is a sight to behold. It gets redesigned front and rear bumpers, protruding side skirts, bright lights, and sits 2 inches lower than the normal car. It's also the only F-150 to get these massive 22-inch wheels with accompanying low-profile tyres. Under the bonnet, Lobo gets 400 brake horsepower from a burbling 5-litre V8 capable of tugging 3.5 tonnes. This is where we lose a little enthusiasm, as unlike the Maverick, which gets bespoke performance enhancements, everything under the shell on the F-150 Lobo is available on other variants. It's almost as if Ford saw the excitement for its Maverick Lobo and decided to capitalise on its success with a rapid, and some might say unworthy, cash grab in the form of nothing more than a body kit. And surely the whole point of a stylish street truck is that it's unique to anyone else's model, so you may as well modify your own regular F-150. The larger of the two Lobos will hit dealership forecourts this autumn in the US only from $60,000.
An all-electric take on the E-Class formula, the Mercedes-Benz EQE was among the first executive saloons to take the plunge to EV tech, and that move seems to have worked out in its favour. At launch in 2022, it was a plusher, more luxurious player in class than any of its rivals, the Tesla Model S notably springing to mind. But it's now been 3 years since the ballooned and silent electric E-Class arrived on UK shores, and so the industry has had plenty of time to catch up. One of the latest EQE competitors to hit the market does not come from Germany, however, as the French are looking to beat Mercedes at its own game.
This is the DS number 8 and drawing inspiration from models of DS past. This new extravagant all-electric saloon is looking like a strong entrant in class. Big, bold and striking, the 8 has all the hallmarks of a halo opulent barge, perfect for long motorway stints to important business meetings, so much so in fact that the President of France has his own unique presidential edition. And unlike many other electric vehicles, this French boat will do a good job at getting you where you need to go thanks to its impressive range figures. In regular form, a 73 kilowatt-hour battery provides 341 miles of driving, but a long-range model gets up to 466 miles from a 97 kilowatt-hour unit. The top edition is available in sportier guise with a second motor boosting power from 245 to 350 brake horsepower, but you don't really need that performance here. Instead, the DS number 8 is all about suave, sophisticated driving where silly numbers like power, speed and 0 to 60 times are irrelevant. And for that, you would expect a nice snazzy interior, wouldn't you? And so here it is. The model's long wheelbase and tall roof mean passengers aboard the number 8 get plenty of room, whilst an expansive sunroof only accentuates that spacious nature. And it looks like cabin space does not encroach on the boot, with up to 620 litres of luggage space available. We're not quite so fanatical about the dashboard. A mess of screens, haptic controls and design shapes all overlapping one another makes for a cluttered look, whilst that all sits behind a steering wheel design we last saw on the Titanic. That technological mess runs on the manufacturer's own iris system, smartly choosing to avoid the overarching Stellantis software. Should you choose to play a few tunes on board, you will benefit from top-of-the-range focal speakers nicely integrated into the trim.
The price for all that, you ask, hitting the market from £50,800 and only hitting the ceiling of optional extras in sporty guise at £63,000, the DS number 8 represents a decent saving over the £69,000 Mercedes EQE. But for the life of us, we're struggling to understand why the Mercedes costs so much more. Cooled seats come as an optional extra, as does the heads-up display, standard fitment on the DS. As we said earlier, the Mercedes has been around for a while now in EV terms, and so its tech is no longer at the cutting edge. 96 and 91 kilowatt-hour batteries are available, and yet the most range you can ever expect is 430 miles. The smaller battery will achieve 380 miles, however, which is a good amount, more than the entry French rival. Depending on your battery, you either get 320 or 450 brake horsepower, which, whilst fun every now and then, does feel a little over the top in an eco-friendly family daily driver. Ultimately, the Mercedes does scream louder than the DS with its higher power figure and flashy design, but for the more subtle, distinguished and evidently frugal amongst you, we would suggest France's best this time around.
After the break, the dull and dreary SKODA ELROQ gets a touch of spice, but how does it fare against other livened-up electric family SUVs?
Welcome back. Coming up, the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1X is a 1200 brake horsepower monster with hybrid assistance. Stick around for that one.
Last year's Paris Motor Show saw SKODA lift the covers on its second ever all-electric family car, the ELROQ. Slightly smaller and more affordable than the ENIAC, yet retaining much of the larger model's plush and pleasing interior design language, we predicted the model's success upon our first time with it. But electric, soft looks and catered to family life, there's no denying that the entry-level Czech EV does lack a little flair. Though now that missing pizzazz has been injected, or so SKODA would have us believe, in the form of the ELROQ RS. A major element of the car's spice is its highlighter green paint job, ensuring even astronauts can see it. Though obviously it is available in more subtle hues in case you're not 5 years old. Aside from bright paint, the ELROQ's RS variant gets several black details such as small canyards on the front, dark wing mirror caps, a rear wing and a set of complex alloy wheels. Apart from those small tweaks though, you'd be hard-pressed to tell the sporty car apart from its sedate sibling. It may be a bit dull from the outside, but that is far from true once you jump into the driver's seat, where the spice really comes through. 2 motors, all-wheel drive and 335 brake horsepower means this family sleeper will hit 62 from a standstill in just 5.4 seconds. Keep it pinned for long enough and you'll reach 112 miles per hour. It isn't just a rocket on the straights, as a stiffer chassis and anti-roll bars plus specifically tuned shock absorbers ensure the RS can also provide a bit of fun on the corners. Powering the pair of motors is an 84 kilowatt-hour battery unique to the ELROQ RS, enabling its 335-mile range. Meanwhile, it takes around 26 minutes of fast charging to go from 10 to 80% charge.
With several contenders to the base ELROQ, the electric crossover space is becoming a particular competitive market. But SKODA is among the few manufacturers to inject a bit of flair into its family runabout. In fact, one of the few others to do so is Kia, and sitting in the middle of its range is this, the EV6 GT. A slick-backed, futuristic-looking 5-door car, the EV6 is already a striking model to look at, but in GT form, it gets a long list of performance enhancements to resurrect your B-road passion post-school run. Inside, the EV6 GT follows a very similar styling approach as the SKODA ELROQ in RS form. Whilst the cabin does not get much additional bolstering fitting the traditional sports car design, but what they do both get is all the flashiest upholstery materials and a collection of bold accents. Aboard the Kia, that translates to acid green stitching and trim hidden away like Easter eggs in a garden of leather and suede, while several aluminium parts prove it is still a grown-up product. Recently updated, the Korean Challenger gets a whopping 640 brake horsepower, good for a 3.5 second sprint to 60 and a top speed of 161. Under the floor sits a newly developed 84 kilowatt-hour battery offering up to 280 miles on a charge, which may not sound like a lot versus the SKODA, but thanks to a denser 800-volt architecture, the Kia does charge from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes, almost 10 minutes faster than the ELROQ.
So, in terms of an out-and-out sports wagon, the ELROQ may not quite match the supercar-destroying performance that the Kia presents. But what it does do is offer a nice blend of practicality in the form of longer range potential and a fun environment with tepid power figures and a bolstered chassis setup for short spurts of fun. What it also does well is make itself affordable to a wider portion of the general public. You can pick an ELROQ RS up for just £46,500. Yes, it is a lot of money, but it's far cheaper than the Kia's recently announced £60,000 price tag.
Sporty electric crossovers are all well and good, but sometimes you want something a little larger, more subtle and easier to use. Sporting old-fashioned combustion power and a far larger cabin, the Renault Austral was first launched in 2022, but has very recently been facelifted with up-to-date looks, a reworked cabin and more sophisticated running gear. In fact, the French C-segment SUV now gets more angular design touches akin to other models in the Renault range. Inside, you get far thicker, better padded and more comfortable chairs as standard over the outgoing car, and in line with the new Renault 5, the driver is now surrounded by screens or running the latest Google built-in software. Under the bonnet sits a choice of two powertrains, a 160 brake horsepower mild hybrid or a full hybrid with 200 brake horsepower. Prior to the Austral's facelift, Renault claimed that 80% of customers selected the latter, with its 1.2-litre three-cylinder offering fantastic fuel economy, all whilst achieving good power and following a whole host of software improvements according to the manufacturer. We see little reason for that to change. Sadly, there is no plug-in hybrid offering quite yet, though that does mean that every version of the Austral stays well below the £40,000 barrier, with a model starting from £35,000.
There is another French mid-size SUV with prices starting from £35,000, and that is the Peugeot 3008. But available in regular hybrid, plug-in hybrid and all-electric form, option lists and power offerings can send the lions on the road price sky high. In fact, this electric model will even creep above the £50,000 mark. Inside this second French-class competitor is an equally as pleasant cabin, if a little less robust in its looks, with a delicate dual display, thin haptic feedback control panel and more elegant centre console. In recent launches, we have tended to dislike the Peugeot infotainment system, and that is certainly the case when up against Renault's Google-based software. But once your phone's connected, this shouldn't be a real deal-breaking issue. Bolstered seats in any variant give the 3008 a sporty feeling inside, though that may well detract from its interior dimensions. As we mentioned earlier, a variety of power sources are available under your 3008's bonnet. But only one rivals the Renault's price tag, and that is the basic 136 brake horsepower mild hybrid, a statistically unreliable setup across the Stellantis range, suffering from wet belt failures. If you can afford it, then we'd suggest the more powerful 195 bhp plug-in hybrid, offering both more oomph and miles per gallon. But costing from £40,000, it's a far more expensive option, especially when the Renault gets more power and similar fuel mileage in the real world from a cheaper system.
Towards the end of last year, the Chevrolet Corvette took every number on its performance sheet and seemingly squared them. The result was the twin-turbocharged 1,000 brake horsepower Corvette ZR1, sporting lightened body panels, a reworked design with aero and downforce in mind, and a finely tuned suspension setup for the track. But regardless of how much fancy downforce trickery and chassis magic you throw at the thing, its rear wheels were always going to struggle for grip when strained by 1,064 of your finest American ponies. So what has Corvette done to solve the issue, you might ask? Would you believe us if we said it's added more power? Now reaching the dizzying heights of 1,250 brake horsepower, the newly unveiled Corvette ZR1X takes the standard car and boosts it further thanks to the Corvette E-Race hybrid system. So on top of the unchanged V8, this X model now gets electric power to the front axle. That means this American hypercar will complete the 0 to 60 dash in less than 2 seconds. With the pedal to the metal for a further 7 seconds, you will complete the quarter mile, all whilst hitting 150 miles per hour. Find a piece of tarmac long enough and you will eventually hit 233. Visually, you would do well to set this X model apart from the regular ZR1. They both take the standard current generation Corvette and make it look a little sharper. Just like its non-hybridized stablemate, the ZR1X is available with an additional carbon aero package with a large rear wing and front splitter. But if you are a more subtle motorist, which you will be for driving a hybrid, this pinnacle version of the Corvette comes as a charming wingless creation. Exactly what you need for the weekly shop. We heard.
Next time on Auto Mundial, the rear-wheel drive front-engine two-door coupe is still fighting fit as BMW is keen to prove with the new M2.